everyone, how are you? I'm Seifu, and last time we talked about the difference between words, phrase and sentence, but today we are going to talk about clause. What does it mean when we say clause? So a clause is a group of words that contains at least one subject and at least one verb. As a group of words, just like sentence, it contains at least one subject and at least one verb. ክላውዝ የምንለው ነገር ልክ እንደ አረፍተ ነገር የቃላት ስብስብ ሆኖ ቢያንስ አንድ ባለቤትና ቢያንስ አንድ ማሰሪያ አንቀጽ ወይም አንድ ግስ ያለው ማለት ነው። So let's see examples. If you study hard, you can pass. This is a clause, but it contains two clauses, dependent and independent clause. If you study hard, you can pass. This one is clause, but there is dependent and independent clause around here. You can pass a sentence, it's independent clause. If you study hard, it's dependent clause. If you study hard, you study, subject and verb. You can pass, subject and verb. That means a clause can contain at least one subject and at least one verb. Means this one. So there are two main types of clause. As I told you, if you study hard, you can pass means there is a clause, there is dependent and independent clause. So there are two main types of clause. One is independent clause, but here there is dependent clause. Independent clause ስንል ራሱን ችሎ ትርጉም የሚሰጥ ማለት ነው። Dependent clause ስንል ግን ከዋናው አረፍተ ነገር ጋር ካልሆነ በስተቀር ከኢንዲፔንደንት clause ጋር ካልሆነ በስተቀር ራሱን ችሎ ትርጉም ሊሰጥ የማይችል ማለት ነው። It's what we call it dependent clause. Let's see independent clause. What does it mean when you say independent clause? It is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb and express a complete thought. And subject na ቢያንስ አንድ subject እና አንድ ማሰሪያ አንቀጽ ወይም ግስ ያለው ራሱን ችሎ የተሟላ ሐሳብ ሊያስተላልፍ የሚችል ማለት ነው። It's what we call it independent clause. Let's see examples. I love you. My uncle paints house. He drank a cup of tea. All these are independent clause. I love you. This is sentence, simple sentence. My uncle paints house. He drank a cup of tea. ወዳለሁ ወድሻለሁ. My uncle paints house. አጎቴ ቤቱን ቀለም ይቀባል. Or these are examples of independent clause. Remember, as we said, independent clause can stand alone and give complete thought. That can stand alone as a sentence. Therefore, an independent clause consists of a subject and a verb that can stand alone as a sentence. ልክ እንደ ሴንቴንስ ራሱን ችሎ ትርጉም ሊሰጥ የሚችል ነገር ኢንዲፔንደንት ክሎዝ ወይም ራሱን ችሎ መቆም የሚችል ክሎዝ ወይም አረፍተ ነገር እንለዋለን። Remember, what's the difference between clause and sentence? Clause can contain dependent and independent clause. So let's see dependent clause. It contains a subject and a verb just like independent clause, but it is not complete sentence on its own. It contains a subject and a verb, but it is not a complete sentence on its own. ልክ እንደ independent clause subject እና ቨርብን ሊይዝ የሚችል ራሱን ችሎ ሙሉ ሀሳብ ሊያስተላልፍ የማይችልን ነገር ዲፔንደንት ክላውዝ እንለዋለን። Let's see examples. I love you because you are kind. I love you because you are kind. ጥሩ ሰው ስለሆንክ እወድሃለሁ። ጥሩ ሰው ስለሆንሽ እወድሻለሁ። ወይም ጥሩ ሰዎች ስለሆናችሁ እወዳችኋለሁ። ጥሩ ሰው ስለሆንክ ምክንያቱም ጥሩ ሰው ስለሆንክ ምክንያቱም ጥሩ ሰው ስለሆንሽ because you are kind. This one is clause. This is what call it dependent clause. I love you, it's independent clause. I love you because you are kind. It contains dependent and independent clause. Because you are kind is dependent clause. I love you is independent clause. So this sentence contains both dependent and independent clause. So you are kind is dependent clause. The subject is you and the verb is are. But because you are kind can't function as an independent sentence because it is phrase. Because you are kind ስንል ምክንያቱም አንተ ጥሩ ሰው ስለሆንክ ወይም አንቺ ጥሩ ሰው ስለሆንሽ ምን ዲፔንደንት ነው። ጥሩ ሰው ስለሆንክ የሚለውን ብቻውን የተሟላ ሀሳብ ሊያስተላልፍ አይችልም። ጥሩ ሰው Another example, unless you study hard you can't pass. Unless you study hard is dependent clause. You can't pass is independent clause. በርትተህ ካላጠና this is dependent. በርትተህ ካላጠና ከሆነ አረፍተ ነገር ጋር ካልተያዘ ራሱን ችሎ ትርጉም ሊሰጥ አይችልም። ጠንክረህ ካላጠና በርትተህ ካላጠና ማለፍ አትችልም። So this is what call it clause, but it contains both dependent and independent clause. That's it today. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, share and like. The next time we are going to talk about conjunctions. Till then, have a nice time.